after the Rath Yatra, I went down to Los Angeles for my initiation ceremony there. And I was always, even right up to the end, I always felt very nervous in Prabhupada's association because I always just felt he could understand my thoughts and see my heart and everything. But whatever. When it came time for me to come up and get my beads, Prabhupada said, I walked up to the Vyasa-san and offered my obeisances, and as I was starting to offer my obeisances, he said, "So, you are brahmachari?" But I was just so nervous, I didn't know what to do, so I just continued offering my obeisances. And so someone was trying to tell me, "Prabhupada's talking to you, Prabhupada's talking to you," but I just kept offering what I wanted to avoid. Because he was like God, to me it was like he's come to save me, and it was a relief, a relief of a huge burden. I mean, in the material world I was in such material anxiety, and Prabhupada had relieved my burden, and he was so beautiful, and so I was very shy. But then afterwards it kind of struck me that maybe he's given me a blessing that I'm a brahmachari. And by Krishna's grace, I never got married, and here I am, struggling.
I was contemplating, because I had this thing in my mind that I hope I have a good name. It was very important to me, the name that because I so far had liked everyone's name that I had met as initiated devotees, but I was worried that I would get a name that just didn't sound right, that wasn't me, but I knew that I had to accept it because it was obviously, because Prabhupada knew what my spiritual name was, so he was going to call me by that name. So it was just a struggle going on inside my, completely on a superficial platform. It had nothing to do with it was just distraction. My mind was just distracting me from. But I had some significance, I knew, so I dwelled on it as long as I needed to. And I was thinking, the name, I was attracted to a particular name. I thought, well, maybe I'll get that name. This is a good name. I like the sound of that name. And the name was Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan. I kept saying Madan Mohan. Boy, that's a good name. I hope I can get that name. Obviously, totally whimsical. So, a few days passed. The time for initiation came. In the meantime, I had gotten some ready-made beads, which I was... No, actually, these beads I had with me, and I had actually I had been using them because I had been in a temple for about 6 months in Montreal. So these were my beads. So I brought them with me to the yagya, to the initiation. And it was a beautiful scene, of course. I had never witnessed so much grandeur and so much effortless grace, all in such a small, in a small space, and with such simple gestures. It was a wonderful experience. But so during this, Prabhupada would take the beads from somebody, then chant on them, then return them. When it came my turn, I hand him my beads. So he takes my beads, and they're not overly small. They were like the same size that most other beads were. But they were, on the small side. So I hand him the beads, and he takes them, and he looks at them with disapproval. And he says, "You couldn't have gotten bigger beads?" And at that moment I'm thinking, beads, and I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm already being, I'm demolished. I have no land to stand on. I'm just like this. I didn't know what to say, so I'm quiet. I don't know. I think I shrugged, and he took the bead. He chanted, and while he was chanting, I'm thinking, Madan Mohan, Madan Mohan. And that's, the mind is just going on. I mean, it was like on hold, waiting. Finally, he begins chanting. He hands me the beads, and before I take them, he says, Is there already someone named Madan Mohan? And then all the devotees are going, oh yes, yes, Prabhupada, here he is. And then with that, there's not a split second even. Your name is Bharadraj. Chad, 16.
I was invited to come up to his room to receive the Brahminical initiation, the Gayatri mantra. So I was really excited, and I walked into the room, and I gave my obeisances, and then Prabhupada motioned to me, he said, come closer. So I went close as I thought I should be, and then he said, come closer. So I sat right next to him, he made me sit right next to him. And then he gave me a piece of paper to look at with the Gayatri mantra on it. And then he said, come a little closer, and then he began to repeat the words of the mantra, sort of, close to my ear. So I was very excited. We were alone in the room, and it was very intimate. So after that, I was going to leave the next morning. So he began to speak to me a little bit. He said, so you are leaving? And I said, yes, Prabhupada. And he said, so you are going by Calais? So I was wondering, why is he saying this? I mean, how does he even know about Calais? Calais is a port on the French coast, North Sea coast. And I was going from Dover to Boulogne. So I said, no, Prabhupada, not Calais. The hovercraft doesn't go from where I get from Dover to Calais. He said, you are sure? I said, yes, Prabhupada, you're wrong. Then I realized what I was saying. I was telling Prabhupada he's wrong, And I felt inside I shouldn't say that, So he just looked at me and smiled and said, that's all right. He said, so thank you very much. And then I gave my obeisances, and Om Ajnana Timirandasya. And then he said, thank you very much. You continue, pursuing the work in Paris. So I went. So when I got to Dover, I kept thinking in my mind, why did I say no to Prabhupada? I should just not have said anything, So when I get to Dover, there's an announcement, ladies and gentlemen, due to rough seas today, the hovercraft will not be going to Boulogne. So I heard that, I was like a little bit surprised. And I said, exceptionally, the hovercraft will be going to Calais today. So I said, oh no, I said, what a fool I am. Prabhupada asked me, are you sure? And I kept insisting, yes, I'm sure. So I remember that very vividly,
We've been apprised of the rules and regulations. He didn't go through it. He just said chant 16 rounds, and Krishna consciousness means happiness, which he had said many other times over the years. Krishna consciousness means happiness, which was a very, very strong thing. Prabhupada sometimes gave very nice, short instructions. We were in Nandagram looking at the paintings and the art, and it was beautiful, and he turns to me and says, art means full belly. Very poignant, very short, very sweet, and full bit of philosophy. He said, if someone is hungry, they cannot think about making or looking at art. They're thinking about filling their bellies. So the Krishna consciousness means happiness was very powerful through the years. And he said it at the initiation.